All right, normally I go last, but tonight we thought we'd switch things up a bit, and I'm going to go first. Just whatever. You guys can vote later if you like it or not. Okay. So as the line of refugees moved step by step closer to the border crossing, 9-year-old Siku kept repeating to himself over and over, "My name is Joseph. My name is Joseph." Because in 1989, the name Siku could be mistaken for that of an enemy tribe, and that mistake could get his whole family killed. He decided on the name of Joseph the night before, and if he messed up while being questioned, that would be the end. Finally, when his turn came and he remembered to say his name, he did remember to say his name, Joseph, but it wasn't enough. His family was pulled out of the line and put into a waiting area for further questioning. This meant probable death the next day. But during the night, a young lady risked her own life to free his family and sneak them across the border. And this was the end of childhood for 9-year-old Joseph Yasara and the start of manhood. Such were the things in 1989 when an entire generation of kids in Western Africa lost their childhoods overnight. For you see, Liberia is a country that has a long history of corruption and suppression, and this abuse erupted into a string of brutal civil wars lasting more than a decade. I know this because recently I went to Africa and stayed with Joseph. And by recently, I mean 5 days ago. And by Africa, I mean specifically the country of Liberia, because Liberia is actually 54 different countries, which is a lot more than you sometimes realize. Joseph told me stories of what it was like to grow up in the middle of a war zone, how his family needed to flee their homes before enemy forces took over their neighborhood, how at the age of 12 he was forced to flee again on a ship that was sinking and broken and stuck at sea for 2 weeks on a journey that should have been a couple days without enough food, water to make it through. Much of this time, the schools were closed, and there was a whole generation that had very little education. This young man, Joseph, survived it all. Eventually, he got enough education to go to college. He got his degree from a Liberian college, and eventually made it to America, where he was able to get his master's degree in conflict resolution. He could have stayed in America and lived the good life, but he decided to go back to Liberia and help fix the country he grew up in. Today, in addition to working for Youth for Human Rights and Applied Scholastics, he works with groups showing them how to resolve conflicts through confrontation and communication rather than violence. Anyway, I was there to train some teachers and to lay the groundwork for future educational projects in the area. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. Instead, I'd like to talk about the people I met there. The first thing you notice when arriving in any new country is how different everything is. Ethnic differences, the clothing, funny signs with bad grammar on them, the accents so thick that even though they're speaking English, you have no idea what they're saying. Or is that because of my accent? Anyway, one of the two of us had an accent. But these are just superficial differences that hit you at first. It's like a critic who sees something but doesn't really understand what he's looking at. Anyway, I consider myself lucky to be born in America, as many of us are. Being poor in America means you only have 2 televisions. Most of us have supportive parents and communities. You have a great school and so many opportunities. The Roman philosopher Seneca said, "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." And the opportunities we have in the United States are many, making us the luckiest nation in the world. Coming from the airport in Liberia, you notice immediately that there are tons of kids and adults selling things to people in the cars stopped at intersections. And by things, I mean every possible thing you could imagine. Water, food, household items, t-shirts, homemade medicines, pillows, I mean literally everything. It's like if you could drive your car through Walmart and just get all your shopping done. And it's kind of impressive, but I was also kind of struck with a bit of sadness that people had to make a living this way. But then after a while, I noticed that even in this poor country, I saw almost no beggars. Everyone was just hustling to make it go right, taking what little opportunities they did have to improve their lives. They don't have as many opportunities as us, but they take advantage of all the opportunities they do have. Now, if you think I'm telling you this story to motivate you, you're right, because I know it sure motivated me. And while in Africa, I did a seminar to a group of about 70 high school students in a small town. And as we spoke about goals and how study helps you accomplish those goals, I noticed how many of these students had very clear professional goals. And despite minimal opportunities, they were taking full advantage of the chances they did have. And as we went around the room, what really struck me was how every single one of them wanted to accomplish these goals, not for themselves, but to improve their country. And you see this culture of helping everywhere over there. Older siblings walking younger brothers and sisters to school in their perfectly matching, really cute little school uniforms. You have little kids helping moms get water from the community well and then carrying it home on their heads without spilling a drop. And little kids, age 4 and younger, walking long distances to and from the market with mom and not complaining and falling behind, but just keeping up. And you see them at this very young age developing a certain dignity and self-sufficiency. And despite their overwhelming challenges, they are not a broken people. And this made me think of what we deal with here, and made me think of our mission, which is to maximize each student's unique potential for the benefit of the student and society. And you see, because we normally emphasize the first part, which is maximizing your potential for your benefit. But sometimes we forget about the part about maximizing our potential and your potential for the benefit of society. Because whether you like it or not, the world really needs your help. And besides improving yourself for your benefit, you need to improve yourself for the benefit of society as well. Your studies aren't just a burden you have, but a chance to prepare you for the opportunities and challenges ahead. In fact, your education is probably the greatest opportunity you have right now. Growing up, my father used to tell me a story from the Bible that illustrated this. He said, a rich man gave some of his gold to each of his 3 servants while he was out of town. Upon returning, he asked each of them what they did with his gold. The first 2 used the gold and increased it and added more to it. And the 3rd servant was afraid he might lose it, so he just buried it in the ground. The master was happy with the 2 who did something with the gold, but angry with the one who did nothing with it. And that is my hope for you, class of 2017, is that you really take your talents and opportunities and abilities and use them to help yourself and others, not just bury those talents in the ground, because each one of you have within you the potential to change the world. And for everyone else who's not graduating, don't be that person who looks back on graduation day and regrets that you didn't do more, didn't face more challenges, didn't have more fun, and didn't get the most out of your time with us, because you'll only regret the things you didn't do. So just stop worrying about what everyone thinks and get involved in as much as you can. Finally, I'd just like to say, never hope for an easy life, but instead work for a fulfilling one. To quote Seneca again, life is like a book. It's not how long it is, but how good it is that matters. Thank you. Thank you.